welcome to Literary Lovers channel. Today we are going to look upon a summary of a novel called Emma. It's published in 1815. It's a work of Jane Austen. It's a fourth novel, and it's a final novel published in her present. So later she got a death. Next, Emma by Jane Austen is a novel about a youthful hubris and a romantic misunderstanding. It is set in the fictional country village called Highbury and the surrounding estates of Hartfield, then Randalls and Donwell Abbey, and involves the relationship among people from the small number of families. So this novel centers on Emma Woodhouse. She is a precocious young woman whose misplaced confidence in her matchmaking abilities occasions several romantic misadventures takes place. So coming to the point, Emma Woodhouse, character of her is the protagonist. She is the protagonist of the novel, and in well-known first sentence of the novel, the narrator describes Emma as handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition. In same ways, the 20-year-old Emma is mature of her age. So she is a rich, beautiful, privileged Emma. She fancies herself in being an excellent matchmaker. So in her governess, that is Taylor, marries Mr. Weston, a match that Emma views herself to have made, and Emma befriends with a lower class girl, Harriet Smith. She assists her, and she is convinced that her friend deserves a gentleman, not a Martin. Martin is a character who proposes Harriet initially. He is a farmer. Martin is a farmer, and Emma believes that he is below average to marry Harriet. So, but at the end, they both become a couple. Next, she insisted and encouraged her friend to admire Mr. Elton, a neighborhood vicar. And Mr. Knightley is a long time friend of Emma, and he is Emma's brother-in-law. He discourages Emma's being a matchmaking efforts. It turns out that all the signs of that Emma has been interpreted as evidence of Mr. Hilton's interest in Harriet were in fact intended for Emma herself. Hilton proposes Emma herself, but Emma reject it, and she wanted him to pair with Harriet. And Emma realizes that personal pride in her judgment and her desires for Harriet's blinded her to the real situation. So Mr. Elton retires to Bath. Bath is another character, and Elton marries the other woman who is very rich. And Emma resolves that to never play being a matchmaker in the future. So meanwhile, Jane Fairfax, another accomplished and beautiful young woman, returns to Highbury to visit her aunt and her grandmother, Mrs. Bates. And Miss Bates, orphaned at an early age, Jane has been educated by her father's friend, Campbell's. She is expected to become a governess as she is no independent fortune. Emma greets her arrival with a mixed admiration and jealousy, as another favorite within their social circle. Emma is also in suspect that Jane has involved with the relationship with Emma's friend's husband called Mr. Dixon. So Emma thinks that Mr. Dixon is a friend's husband of Emma, having a relationship with Jane, but it's wrong. It's not a truth. So Mr. Weston's son Frank Churchill is also expected to visit after many delays. He lives with his snobbish aunt and uncle, Mr. and Mrs. Churchill in London. Emma anticipates his arrivals with pleasure and finds him charming. Mr. Knightley, who is a relative of Emma and good friend of her, on the other hand, dislikes him as superficial and silly. Frank Churchill, flattering attentions soon attract the single Emma, and he chooses her. And Mr. Elton returns from Bath with his new bride. Bath is a place where he returns because Emma rejected Elton's. So the self-important Mrs. Elton, who takes a liking to Jane and distastes Emma. Misperceptions abounds as various characters speculates over developing romances, word games, riddles and letters provided fodder for mixed interpretation of who loves whom. Emma enjoys Frank's attention towards her, but ultimately decides he is not for her. Mrs. Weston suspects a match between Mr. Knightley and Jane. I told you Mrs. Weston is a tailor, who take care of Emma. So which Emma vehemently dismisses. Mr. Knightley saves Harriet from social humiliation, where this Elton rejected this Harriet, and asking her here his Knightley asked Harriet to dance with him. So Mr. Elton snubs her while dancing. Emma encourages what she believes to be Harriet's developing interest in Frank, who long ago saved Harriet from the Gifts. Everyone records Frank and Emma as a match, but Knightley suspects Frank's interest in Jane and warns Emma, be careful, that is the truth. Knightley shares the truth with Emma, and Emma laughingly dismisses his warning. In this novel, Knightley is a good guider for Emma, always guides the truth, always tries to unfold unfold the truth towards Emma, because she is the one who is always making a false matchmaking. Believing she knows the secret of each character's heart, she ignores that guidance. When Mr. Knightley reprimands her for mocking the harmless Mrs. Bates, however, she feels great remorse and resolves to improve her behavior to the Bates. Mrs. Churchill dies, setting in motion the shocking revelation that Frank and Jane have been secretly engaged. So, the relative of Frank Churchill, she died. Next, Frank's courtships of Emma was covered to hide his truth attachment with his aunt opposed. Through a series of painful misunderstandings, Jane broke off their engagement and was about to take up a governess position. Frankly obtained his uncle's approval to marry Jane. Now, Emma is also misperceived Harriet's interest in Frank, as Harriet reveals herself to be in love with Mr. Knightley, but Mr. Knightley, who is a relative and a good guider, he proposes to Emma, and there is also a shock to her, and happy she gladly accepts that. And at the end of the novel, Emma marries Mr. Knightley. Harriet again accepted Mr. Martin's second proposal, and Frank, of course, Jane. They both are married. So A novel ends with a happy union of equals. So, this is also a good lesson for the Emma and the character like Emma, who is always thinks that they are always in the right path. So, Irish poet Thomas Moore wrote in a similar he describes Emma as the very perfection of novel writing. So that Emma will learn from her mistake is clear, and her happiness with Knightley, who has known and admired her since childhood, seems assured. Emma is Austen's commentary on how little anyone knows about the workings of another's heart and affections, and her heroine's painful lesson is evident of her creator's wisdom. So, this is a short, brief summary of Emma. Very beautiful to read, and also it becomes a movie. So, please do watch the movie and please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. Thank you.